Welcome to Home Biz Tax Talk. My name is Lysandra Everett. I am the Home Biz Tax Lady, where I help home business owners win the tax game. Home Biz Tax Talk airs Monday through Friday, and when you tune into my show, you're going to hear about topics that are important to the home business community. Okay, so I really want to talk about some taxpayer behaviors that you need to avoid. Over the last few weeks, as we get into tax season, there's always a whole bunch of stuff that starts flooding the internet because everybody wants to be a tax professional, but nobody wants to go to school. Okay. So this is why I want to talk about these particular behaviors, because it's going to impact your tax life. And when we want to win, right? We want to play the game to win, definitely not playing to not lose. It just does not work. Okay. So number one is becoming a habitual non-filer. And so what does that mean? That means that you go year after year and you simply don't file. There's no particular reason why you don't file. You feel like you might owe, but not filing does not help you. And also, if you're due a refund and you don't file, after 3 years, you don't get it. And see, that's the thing. When you are due a refund, you've got 3 years to claim that refund, or it becomes the property of the Department of Treasury. And yeah, they serious about that. So no, you won't get that refund. But also on the flip side, by becoming a habitual non-filer and you owe, there's no statute of limitations on not filing. So if they figure out that you haven't filed since, 2000, okay, and that you owe, since 2000, guess what? There's no statute of limitations. They can still, the IRS will go back and assess whatever your tax liability is and start to, and add in those penalties, the interest that compounds daily to your tax bill. And then after that, the feds have 10 years to collect, and most states have about 20 years to collect. So becoming a habitual non-filer does not work out in either regard. So even if you have a tax bill that you can't pay, you still need to file, because that will negate the failure to file penalty, which has more teeth than the failure to pay penalty. If you're filing your taxes and you have a tax bill, then you can work some stuff out. If you're not filing, you're not paying, you're not doing anything, when the government catches up with you, then don't be crying the blues talking about they're out to get you. They're just enforcing the law. That's what the IRS is, an enforcer. If you don't like the law, ask your congressman. Okay? So that's number one. Number two, filing and paying late. Please get out of this habit. Okay? Because when you file an extension, it's a 6-month extension to file the paperwork. It is not to pay your taxes. So if you're going to have a tax liability, wouldn't you like to know what that is? And so you can pay the least amount possible. Because if you wait and then try to figure out what you owe 6 months later, you've got at least 6 months of penalties and interest that have already racked up if you owe. Now, again, if you're due a refund, then the penalties and interest do not apply. You've just got 3 years to claim your refund. But if you owe and then you can continually file late, you're costing yourself money, because the penalties and interest are adding up, and that interest is compounding and added every day, right? We talk about this a lot. So start getting in the habit of filing on time. If you have all of your documentation, because, you got to get your W-2s, your 1099s, your 1098s, your 1098Ts, and all of that stuff, your 1095s. You've got to get all those documents in, which you should have them by February. So get in the habit of filing early, because just because you're filing doesn't mean you have to pay right then. You still have until the deadline to pay. So at least if you file early, you are prepared. You know what's going on, and you've got some time to make some decisions. You've got time to work out a little bit of money, pay off, some of that tax debt, even if it's not the whole amount, right? So this is what I mean by filing and paying late. Get out of this habit, you guys. File on time. Just file on time. Yeah, I promise you, it's really not that hard to file on time. Okay, number 3, please do not confuse tax preparer responsibilities with your wishes. Okay? As tax professionals, we work for you, the client. However, We have laws and rules to abide by. So just because you want to do something, you feel like you should be able to do something, doesn't mean that you can, right? We have to abide by the law. So if you come to us with some numbers that don't make sense or some extra dependents that you did not have the year prior, we're going to be asking those questions, because it's not our job just to listen to what you tell us. We have what's called due diligence requirements. We got to ask the questions. We got to see the paper. We got to make sure that you are following the law to the best of our ability. Now, if you provide all of these fraudulent things to us and that's what we file with, okay, we've done our part, then that part's on you. But if we as tax professionals do not do our homework, then we're on the hook as well as you are. And I'm saying this because, I hear so many times, I hear taxpayers complaining about the tax professional. Well, this one tax preparer let me do this and this one didn't. Well, one of them may be abiding by the law and the other one is not. Because just weekly, every week, I see new posts, whether it's in the news, if it's from the Department of Justice or whatever, from tax preparers, they're being sent to jail for doing funky stuff. So it is our job as tax professionals, and yes, I'm using the two terms very differently. Tax professionals are going to follow the law. Tax preparers are going to take your money. Okay, it's two different things. All right, number 4. Please stop assuming that the amount of your refund determines the level of work that you get from a tax preparer. I hear every year, well, I went to so-and-so and they got me this much money back and you're not getting me as much money back, so I'm going to go back to that person. That doesn't mean that that person prepared your taxes correctly. That doesn't mean that that person knows some secret squirrel stuff that nobody else knows. They may be doing something flat out illegal, okay? Again, I just talked about how tax preparers wind up going to jail every single day because they've been filing fraudulent stuff. And let me tell you what happens to you, the taxpayer. See, when that tax professional goes to jail and people are getting sentenced for years, 3 and 4 and 5 years, and then got to pay restitution into the tunes of millions of dollars, depending on how much they stole from the government. So when these tax people file fraudulent stuff, they file fraudulent earned income tax credit, they file fraudulent business expenses, they take all these false stuff. The IRS is going to audit those returns. And if they find out that you, taxpayer, got money that you were not legally entitled to, guess who's going to have to pay that back? You are. You're going to have to pay that money back. And 9 times out of 10, when you got that refund in your hot little hands, what did you go do? You went and spent it. So 9 times out of 10, you're not going to have that money to pay back. So this is why I tell you, don't just assume because somebody says, I can get you X amount of dollars back and they haven't looked at one single document. That is a huge red flag and you should run in the other direction. Now, don't get confused with the marketing, okay? You'll see marketing that says, we will get you the largest allowable refund. Well, if your largest allowable refund is $100, it is what it is. Just because Jack got 1,000 and you get $100 doesn't mean that something's wrong. Everybody's tax picture is different. Jack might have been entitled to something that you weren't. Jack may have overpaid on his taxes with estimated tax payments and you just don't know. So do not confuse the size of a refund with the quality of work that you get from a tax professional. If you owe, you owe. You cannot make a whole bunch of money in the United States and not pay taxes. It doesn't work like that. And especially, I get it when you see the posts that talking about, having a home business puts you, you can get a larger refund. Well, if you lose money, sure. But that's only going to work for so long. You can only lose money for so long before the IRS is going to come knocking. Or your state is going to come knocking. And usually the state comes for you a lot faster than the feds. And the states are a lot less forgiving. Okay, let me say that too. So don't just assume because somebody's, went and got you all this money back that they did everything accurately. That's what you have to know as a taxpayer. I'll give you an example. I had a client who came to me and, he had all of these itemized deductions on his previous return. I said, great, where's your Schedule A? And he looked at me like I had two heads. Like, where's the Schedule A from the previous preparer? It's like, well, they never gave it to me. I said, okay, well, guess what? This return isn't prepared correctly, right? Because I started asking the questions on that's normally on the Schedule A, and all his answers were no. So we already knew what was up. But you as a taxpayer, you need to know these things. Stop just looking at the refund amount. You need to look at the return itself. You need to know what the documents are. And if your tax professional does not want to explain them to you, you should take your stuff and go somewhere else. And if you can't get all the documents that you need that go with your tax forms, you should take your stuff and go somewhere else. Plain and simple. All right. And number 5, taxpayer behavior to avoid. Please stop getting your tax advice from non-professionals. Listen, I know as business owners, we want to act like we know the tax professional's job better than the tax professional. And so we go out here and you post all of this stuff that you think is loop it, swoop it, cool. You done borrowed this post from somebody else because, ooh, it sounded so good. Please stop taking your advice from social media. Because even though I am a tax professional, I'm going to tell you the truth. You can watch all of my videos. It is still not competent advice for you. Because these videos, they answer general questions. What may apply to one person may not apply to you. Or it may not even apply at all, because there's a lot of half-truths that are out here in these social media and internet streets, where they're telling partially the truth and it's just enough to get you in trouble. We talk about, you see posts about, all these different types of business structures, talking about federal taxes when they ain't talking about the state. Just because somebody said that you can form an S Corp and save on your self-employment tax doesn't mean it's the right thing for you. Because on the flip side, you have no idea what your state is going to do to you. Right? 50 different states, 50 different sets of rules. And your state may not even recognize an S Corp. We see the posts about starting an LLC. Go start an LLC for your kids and all this stuff. When you see this stuff, go to your tax professional. Go ask them, hey, I saw this. What's the deal? Is this true? How does this apply? And they'll tell you, because what happens is, as a taxpayer, when you see these things, then you get excited about the lie, and then you get mad at us for telling you the truth. But that's our job, is to tell you the truth. Now, if you go off and do these things on your own, as tax pros, we can't help you. You've already done it. But we are not going to participate in the foolishness. Because if we do that, then we can be held liable. And I'm not catching a case, whether it's the IRS or whoever, for anybody. I'm not about to get fined from the IRS for not doing my homework. I'm not about to file some stuff that I know is not correct. We're not doing it. A tax professional, a real professional, will not do it. And they will tell you why they won't do it. And if you choose to leave, knock yourself out. But just remember us, though, when the IRS sends you that letter about some tax debt and you need to help get that resolved, you can call us back then. No, we'll help you then. Okay? But please remember that prevention is cheaper than the cure. Okay? Tax resolution, it costs. When you have got to go and figure out how you're going to get this money back to the IRS, oh, yes, sir, it's going to cost you. So this is why I tell you, file your taxes as if you knew you were going to get audited tomorrow. If you stick to that, then you don't have to worry about any of this stuff. File on time. Do not expect your tax professional to babysit you. And by babysitting, I mean calling you to say, hey, you need to give me your stuff. Hey, you need to give me your stuff. Hey, you need to give me your paperwork. Hey, you need to sign this document. Hey, you need to No, that is not our job. If you can't remember your dates, guess what? You got one of these, put it in your phone. You can set annual reminders. Did you know that? I know this may sound, what's the word I'm looking for? Harsh. But you have, as the taxpayer, you have to take responsibility for your tax life because you are the only one at the end of the day who is going to be held responsible. If your tax professional has done something shady, has done something wrong, that you did not know about, they will be held accountable. Not can be, they will be held accountable. But you, as a taxpayer, you are ultimately responsible for your tax life, whether your taxes get filed on time, whether, and listen, pull a transcript every year. Go to the IRS website and pull a transcript every year to make sure that your taxes were filed, to make sure that you're claiming all of your income, right? Because if you're not, if you forget a W-2 or you forget a 1099 or something like that, then you will get an accuracy related penalty, and that can be very difficult, if not impossible, to remove. There are cases where I've seen it removed, but it's not the usual course of business, okay? So yeah, so as taxpayers, we got to take more responsibility, right? We got to take more responsibility to make sure our stuff is done accurately, that it's done, on time and all of that stuff, so that you can, you're not inviting the government into your business. When you perform those types of behaviors, you invite the government into your business, and you require them then to enforce the law. The IRS is an enforcer. They are not the rule writer. That's Congress. Okay. So I hope this helps you out. Tax time comes the same time every year. It's not a surprise. Okay. So I hope that gives you something to chew on. Thank you guys so much for tuning in to Home Biz Tax Talk. Again, we air Monday through Friday, and you can come right here to get your questions answered about your home business taxes. All right. Have a great day, and I will see you all next time. Bye.